Hi there, it's Vicki McCarthy from Aussie Stampers. Thank you very much for joining me again today. We have a watercolour masterclass, and this is the card that you'll be making. It's made on Stampin Up watercolour paper using the Fairy Celebration stamp set, stamped in archival grey ink. Now you will need archival ink for the stamping of the image, and I'm colouring the image with subtle colours. And I'll have these listed on my blog. Generally a soft and a dark colour of each one, or a soft and medium tone, so they'll blend well together. I have a folded paper towel, a number 6 round brush, an aqua painter, and some painter's tape, 14-day tack. Here's the stamp set. Start with your soft sky ink, and you're going to make a little palette in the lid by squeezing the lid together. And I put quite a bit of water into the lid, not onto the brush itself, but into the lid, so I can pick up just a very soft amount of colour, because I want these wings to look gossamer. Now wipe that colour off before we go to the next colour. Now I have some sweet sugar plum, and I'm going to be doing the poppies. You just follow the lines on the stamped image to do your shading. Now I'm bringing in some pink pirouette to blend in with that while it's still wet. I'm not squeezing ink onto the paper at all, I'm just putting the ink into the lid of the ink, and that gives me a palette where some of the ink is solid and some is blended well with water to choose from each time I go to the lid. Now I'm going to do the toadstool in rose red, and I want a bit of shadow under where the fairy is seated, and I want it to blend softly away from that dark shadow as I move outwards on the top of the toadstool there. For the finer detail, I'm going to bring in that number 6 round brush, and I don't have any water on that number 6 brush at all. All I'm doing is pulling the ink on the page, not adding water to it. I have water in my aqua brush, and that's what's doing the blending work. Pulling a little bit of ink and just doing that fine detail with the round brush. Now I'm going to do the grass, and for this I'm going to just use confident strokes there so that it mimics the direction that the work has been drawn in. So you've just got nice grass-like strokes. Bring in your number 6 round for those very fine lines. You can see that I took most of the water off that brush, and I'm just pulling the ink in from the palette on the lid. Working this way means that you don't have to keep drying off your work. You can see that I'm not working with parts of the stamp that are touching each other. I've kept the areas away from the earlier areas where I've been working, so that I don't have to continually be waiting for the paper to dry. Now I'm bringing in some pink pirouette, and I'm drawing a lot of water into the top of the lid here because I want this to be extremely soft. Just how I did the wings, exactly the same for the skin. Now I've brought in some Tip Top Taupe, which is the brown. You can see how much water I'm mixing in with that. It's just a very light shade of that brown. Next I'm going to colour her dress. I have 2 different shades of yellow to do this. A light and a medium shade. So I've started off with the light shade, now I'm bringing in the medium shade, and the smaller brush and just adding some details. And because the paper is slightly wet from the ink underneath it, it's blending quite well. Next, some Marina Mist and the small brush. Take almost all of the water off the brush because now I want the same colour but a deeper intensity on the wings. So this is going to give the detail on the wings, those little circular pieces and the areas around the outside of the wings. And I'm bringing some of that blue down as a shadow under the toadstool, and I'm going to draw some of it through the grass as well. This helps the colours travel around your page so that it doesn't look as though you just have some blue wings sitting there and it doesn't relate to anything else on the page. Now I'm going to just blend the base of that toadstool a little bit with some water. Bringing back the Tip Top Taupe again and the smaller brush and doing the hair. And just follow the lines that the artist has put onto the image for you. Now I'm getting close to those blue wings, but because I started them first, they've had a bit of time to dry while I've been working on the rest of the picture. So the ink isn't running at all. It's doing quite well. It's holding up well. A little bit of that brown into the grass. Now I have some more of the rose red. Now I'm going to take a tiny bit of that for the rosebud mouth, and you can see how I wiped off the ink onto the paper first. Same with the eyes. Wipe it off. You've only got a small amount of ink left on the brush so that by the time you do those tiny dots, that's all that you need. Now while that's drying, I'm going to work on the inside of the card. I'm going to do very much the same technique. This inside of the card is a back image of a tiny little fairy with her hair done up in a bun. It's very sweet. I'm going to use the same colours so that it matches the outside. Now I have the pink pirouette. And you can see how much water I've put into that, so it's barely visible as a pink. It's a very subtle hint of pink. Some Tip Top Taupe, and this is the hair that's now been put up into a bun. And the darker yellows to bring in some contrast to her dress and to the sleeves. Now while I have my other image out, I'm just going to run a little bit more of the darker yellow through, just to give a bit more contrast now that those colours have dried. Here's the Marina Mist, and I'm going to do the detail on the wings. These wings have a slightly different design to the wings on the front. They have more veins in them, almost like the veins of a leaf, whereas the wings on the first fairy had spots on them. So I'm just playing and some soft sky. Now this is where I'm going to be showing you, look how much water I'm putting in, and I keep adding water. This is a very watery mix. Now the fairy is completely dry except for that little bit of yellow that I put on her dress, so I can go around and put water onto the page and it's not going to affect the image that I've already painted. This is a very, very subtle pale blue. It's almost not there, but when you look at the card in real life you can see the slight blue background. Now where the fairy dust images are, I'm just taking directly from the soft sky ink pad. Because it's such a soft colour to begin with, you're able to pick up the ink directly from the pad. Now I'm bringing in some of the Tip Top Taupe to colour in the pink skin so that it has a little bit more beige brown tones to it. Now what's happened with the small fairy, and I'll show you how to fix this, I'm taking a strip of paper towel Some of the yellow from the sleeves has bled down into the hands. So what you do is you put some water on there and you leave it. Don't be tempted to go back in and scrub at it or try and lift it. Just wait for the water to do its thing, then you can come back in and lift it away. And I'm just bringing some of the Tip Top Taupe back in to recolour the hands and then blot them straight away. Now I'm ready to put the card together. I've let it dry naturally. I have not used a heat tool on it. I didn't want to risk warping the card or having the paint or ink run on the image. And I've got all the measurements for this on my blog as well. I'm using Tombow multi-adhesive. Make sure you put plenty of adhesive on, because you'll find that the watercolour paper wants to warp a little bit. And I would recommend once you've put your card together and the ink has dried that you sit it under a heavy weight for a couple of days. A couple of heavy books would work. Now I'm bringing in some clear Wink of Stella and dotting it on that where that fairy dust is, and dotting a little bit on the fairy dust on the inside of the card as well. So there's the card finished. I hope you enjoyed today's project, and I look forward to having you join me again next time. Bye.